Hi everyone, my name is Veta, and you're watching another episode of Madiff Talks, our space to bring tech leaders, product people, and innovators to discuss the hottest topics in tech. Our guest today is a CEO and a founder of a Portuguese startup working towards energy efficiency within buildings, and she's joining us today for another conversation about the green tech field. And I am extremely happy to have Marcia here with us.
Hi, hello Vera. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Marcia. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you on Madiff's behalf. Thank you for accepting our invitation and bring another interesting episode to our talk series. I would say we can kick off our conversation in a second, but before, I was hoping you could introduce yourself so it's clear for everyone at home why we're going to talk about sustainability and tech today.
Okay, well, I have a background of a mechanical engineer, thermodynamics field. I work a lot in energy efficiency projects, renewables as well. I took part of the government. I was in a private company, in a corporate, actually even in a startup, and now I'm running Bandora as a CEO and founder of it, and where I apply all my knowledge and all my experience that I got in the past years.
Okay, and I'm sure that will be great experience to bring to such a conversation like this. And you already know I always enjoy talking to you, and I'm specifically glad that we can bring what we usually discuss on a personal level to a podcast like this. Of course, I introduced you like the co-founder of Bandora, but I feel like you have a lot in your background before that, and you also said you had been participating in some initiatives within the Portuguese government. So I would kick off by asking you, what do you think was that one project that made you wanting to create something innovative and something new?
Well, one of the projects that I'm most proud of, it was in the past 10 years there was a legislation that that pays a huge tariff if you install renewables, small or micro projects of renewables in your house, in your country house. That was the idea, to have several micro projects of renewables, and everybody was doing solar photovoltaic, right? It's easier. But then me and my team, we got the idea why we should create a small turbine to take advantage of the water in order to produce energy, because we have huge turbines, and what if we could develop a micro turbine just to get water from a river, from a small dam, in order to use and to sell the energy to the grid, to the national grids, and to take advantage of this huge energy tariff. And that's what we did. Actually, it was a 1 year and a half project, and where we developed, we have several prototypes of this turbine. We use a river in Leiria, right in the center of Portugal, and it was a success. It was the first micro hydro power project in Portugal, connected to the national grid, and it was really interesting and fulfilled my ego, right?
Yes, I can imagine. So since you brought us with this type of project, something you did on a governmental level, I don't want to miss the chance before we jump into other topics. I don't want to miss the chance to ask you for a more macro perspective because, like you said, you've been involved with sustainability energy initiatives within Portugal. So I would love to hear from you. What is your perspective on Portugal's position in the international scenario when it comes to sustainable energy? Since this whole idea came from a gap you all identified, I would love to know how you think we are behaving. What is your input on that?
Well, for some people that are normies in terms of energy matters, there are kind of muggles, right? They might be surprised, but actually Portugal is paving the way in what becomes sustainability and what is related with renewables. For instance, I believe it was last month or April, we got more than half of the energy of the energy demand was already fulfilled by solar and wind, which is massive, right? And in the late of 2021, we had the phase out of coal, and it was really it was a lot of discussion, because on February it starts the European war, so and all these concerns about energy. But actually the energy tariff grow, okay, but in the same way as the rest of Europe, that is still dependent in coal and non-renewable energy source. So in my perspective, it's not the color of the government, but are actually the energy policies. And in Portugal, they are actually they're actually making things happening, and that's why Portugal is leading the way since the agreement of Kyoto, Paris, Glasgow. We are actually doing really good stuff, and we are leading the way in terms of renewables and energy efficiency targets as well.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very important that we have someone like you coming and telling, okay, please calm down, because we're actually behaving. And I believe a lot of people do try to compare Portugal to other bigger countries, but perhaps those countries were suffering a lot more from the energy crisis than us. I mean, I went to Germany 2 winters ago, and until a certain temperature, you cannot turn the heater on because they were in a saving mode. So apart from that, these moment crises that we're facing are very important when it comes to when it comes to move forward in matters like energy efficiency and consumption. So what type of advancements have been made specifically to tackle this energy efficiency as a problem? And of course, if you can bring us a little bit into your mind and what you think that still needs to be done in this direction.
Yeah. Well, actually, Europe is also paving the way in terms of efficiency targets. It's interesting how triggered, of course, by a bad context of that is the war in Ukraine. But actually, I don't know. But I don't know if you're aware, but in 2022, we increased 2% of the energy efficiency in Europe. So, and of course, in 2021, we increased as well the energy efficiency. Okay, probably in the context of the COVID, of course. Probably triggered in 2022 by the context of the war and the energy savings targets and limits, like you mentioned, that you found in Germany. But it makes us really hopefully that we can meet the net zero targets for 2050. So that's why we are so excited about that. And in terms of technology advance, the most technology advances that were made by the countries, by the governments, by corporates, by companies, by families actually, was in terms of mobility. It is a reality. More and more people are phasing out the 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 combustion vehicles, in order to change to electrical cars. Of course, buildings with better materials, with better insulation, and of course really high standards, and how the buildings are managed, how the energy is managed, and these were the three main components, the main drivers actually, that lead to these results, to the 2% of energy efficiency that was increased in 2022. So and that's why we are actually in the really interesting moment. Just on top of it, now back into Portugal. Actually, Portugal, for instance, is actually now in a new phase of energy transition, and I believe in the next couple of years, all Europe will be in the same energy transition phase as Portugal.
I agree with most of what you said. And the other part is not that I don't agree. It's just that I wasn't really aware of some of the things you said, so I don't really have an opinion. But I really like this type of topics within sustainability and how it brings even more awareness to the average consumer, because like you were saying, sometimes you're talking to normies and you have to bring things a little bit more down to earth. And there's usually a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to explaining and convincing other people that there's a financial benefit from these sustainable options. So how resistant is this sector to new technologies? Just because you see AI and machine learning trying to enter pretty much every sector with different usages. So the same way people are resistant, is your sector also resistant, or they can immediately benefit from these other technologies? What is your opinion in that?
Well, fortunately, I'm a privileged person, in the terms that when I start working, the energy efficiency and the renewables, they were a reality, but just for the geeks of energy, right? And then I watch the change, you know. I watched the huge change, and it was like an avalanche, from the geeks to the mainstream, you know. Why? Because there was a legislation that pays and actually benefits energy efficiency projects and renewables projects, and actually that triggered the market. And nowadays, projects, renewable projects, energy efficiency projects, they don't need funds or some financial injections or boosts in order to make them feasible. They don't need it. Why? Because the regulation was important in a certain point, in order to oblige the market to change, to move, to speed up. But now the market is now stable, and we reach the parity where energy efficiency projects can actually meet they are feasible projects. They are like investment projects now. So if I want to invest in renewables, to have a solar panel in my home, this is an investment project. It's not just because I want to save the world. No, it's not. It is an investment project. The same goes if I want to change all the lights in my house to LED or LED even more efficient, this is an investment project, and you have the payback in about 6 months or less, sometimes less. So these are in investment projects, and now people are much more aware that these are actually investment projects. And artificial intelligence and machine learning or even ChatGPT, they are actually leveraging these efficiency projects. Why? Because in some projects the results, I mean, we already have the results, and the results of efficiency, the results of payback in terms of my investment. But you can have the extra mile if you include artificial intelligence technologies. For instance, in the case of Bandora, what we do is leveraging turning smart buildings into autonomous. And how we do that? We do with a data driven approach to the building. So it's no longer a physical approach, a thermal approach, but it is a pure statistic approach. That's why artificial intelligence algorithms are so important to make this conversion of buildings into more efficient, more quickly, fast, more reliable, and more precise. These are the most important drivers and results of the artificial intelligence technology.
See, I wanted to take our conversation in a slightly different path, just because we already went, or we already dove a little bit into the technical part. But I wanted to understand what is your feeling as someone developing a startup, right? Because there's this duality between big corps and startups, and we've seen many big corporations creating departments specifically to manage the way they deal with sustainability, and sometimes from there they get to create new business segments and develop something with a much faster time to market. I don't know if you will agree, but do you feel they are leaving any technological gap that could potentially be filled by startups in the future?
Well, in my perspective, the word nowadays are integration, right? That's the main word. So, what is happening? We have now a lot of devices in order to reduce the energy consumption. We have better lights. We have better air conditioning equipments. We have electric cars. I mean, better cars. We have solar panels, and what is happening is how to integrate all these devices, all these equipments in one single platform, and they have so many language. It's like being in a room with a lot of foreign people that we don't know what they are mentioning, what they are talking. It's literally lost in translation. It is. And so the game changer now is the ability of the integration, to create a way to speak and talk with all of these systems in order to create one single system. Because, for instance, a building now has huge challenges with mobility, with electric mobility, because now the costs, or I mean, the energy consumption will increase, because of the mobility, and they have to understand to balance the energy consumption. When is the best time to charge the cars? When, if it is okay to have solar panels, if it is okay to even have a battery, if it is okay to get energy from the batteries, from the electric cars that are already charged, to fulfill some energy peak or energy demands at some moment that we have in our office, in our building, to understand all the appliances as well, to integrate. So this is the actually the big technology gap nowadays, is the way how to we speak and we control and we manage all these different equipment. And this is only in one building perspective.
Mhm.
Now imagine in a community or in a city, right? Imagine to manage all these different buildings that has inside all these different languages. So you can imagine how insane this is, and how important this is, because this is no longer my building, my house, my device or my equipment. No, this is a larger approach. That's why, and I repeat, artificial intelligence is really important. I believe, for instance, ChatGPT will be massive important to understand all these different languages, and to quicker understand all these in different languages, and to integrate with all these different devices and systems.
Well, I was going to put you into the challenge we always say to every single guest. So I was feeling that you were already going through your ideas and what you would like to do in the future. But before we close our episode, I would like you to leave us with your insights in the same way, like I said, we ask to every guest, which is, if you had limitless resources and whatsoever, what technological advancement would you propose to make sustainable energy more accessible to the everyday consumer?
Well,
The way you had to breathe before.
well, we I had a project several years ago that was somehow socially it impacts me. So, and it was a really simple project. It was to install solar panels with batteries in a really remote place in the country, in Mozambique, the most remote that you might think. And the main goal was, because they have in that village, they have uh, they don't have a maternity. So if women need to deliver, uh, they have to cross the river Zambezi, and go to the next country, uh, in 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 order to have their babies. And believe me, it is a really dangerous river, because it's full crocodiles and those kind of animals.
Yeah.
And actually they were getting energy from that country. I believe it was Tanzania. Well, no, but I will remember, Zambia.
Okay.
And they were receiving the energy, but the problem was, from 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., they have a cut of the energy. So what happening is, they built a maternity in their village, but during that time, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., they don't have energy. So we were contracted to install an energy plant, a solar energy plant with batteries, in order to fulfill only those hours every day, in order to avoid, when a woman that needs to give birth her baby, to avoid to lack of energy and to have extra complications. And at the same time, they install as well a radio station because they want to listen Portuguese news in Portuguese, not in English, because they only received radio station waves from the other country, and that's why they also need the solar energy power. So the thing that I want to mention is that I would like, if I have limited resources, I would like to spread this kind of projects, because these projects are much more than energy solvers, but they are actually social solvers. You know, they have a lot of impact, social impacts, cultural impact as well. And these are kind of projects that actually please and they excite me actually.
And you need to let us know if you give any step in that direction, just so we can be aware that even even after you shared that idea with us, that you actually thought about putting some effort, or that you actually had the chance. Sometimes it's not about putting effort, but that you had the chance to do something in that regard. I am honestly, I'm just afraid that to know if there's something crucial that I didn't ask you, or that I didn't give you the chance to talk about, and that you think it's very important to mention in a conversation like this. Is there anything I didn't ask you?
Um, well, this is actually another Madiff Talks, right? It's about the green investments. This is has a lot of information, right? And the thing that I want to mention is that, yeah, should it be interesting to talk about the green investment? And the answer is yes. This is not only government funding. There's a lot of private energy and energy efficiency, sustainable investments, private investments, and and the goal is actually make impacts, but always with always profitable. Yeah, but probably in the next Madiff Talks we can talk about that.
I can tell that you already accepted joining me for another one. Should the topic be related to green investment? Well, I just wanted to thank you for joining this episode. It was a great conversation. It's always a pleasure to have you and participate with Madiff's activities. As per usual, this episode will be in our social media, linked to Marcy's social media as well, just so you can keep track of her work with Bandora, especially because I know they are working in some interesting use cases, and that will be interesting to spread some word about it. So make sure you keep track of our episodes, because, like always, they are very interesting, and I'm sure Pandora has some future projects to come that you also should know about. So thank you, Marcia, for joining us. Let's plan the next talk, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vera. Bye bye.